Welcome to the Why Not podcast with me, Chrissy Hawkins. In a world where everybody asks you why, I'm here to ask why not. So sit back and relax or walk and listen and join me on this journey as we try to answer this never-ending question: what makes people say, why not? Well guys, today I have another interview for you with a female personal trainer over in the UK. Her name is Esme, and today we talk actually about training for performance and improvements instead of aesthetics and how that can make a huge difference to your enjoyment of the gym. We talk about our own experiences in the gym, as originally she worked in architectural design and gym was kind of like something she did on the side, and now she moved into the actual training space herself. So yeah, it was a really nice conversation. It was really good to talk to someone as well about how performance is so much better for your gym training than actually just training for aesthetics. But guys, hope you enjoyed the episode. Hi guys, welcome back to Why Not. So I have an interview today with Esme Prior. So she is a personal trainer. She is all the way over in South London. So welcome to the podcast, Esme. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, good. Thank you for joining us. Do you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I have been personal training now in London for just over 3 years, although I have been training since I was 18, sort of 17, 18. So I've been training about 10 years and PTing for about 3. So I came from a completely different background. I came from a background in architectural visualization. I loved it, but it just wasn't my passion. So worked 2 jobs at the same time, trying to earn enough from PT in order to basically give up my other job. And yeah, I'm here now 3 years later, and I wouldn't really look back. So yeah,
that's a bit of a change, architect.
Yeah, well, yeah, I did like it, but it was just, I just knew it wasn't, I couldn't imagine sitting at a desk for the rest of my life. And I was going home and I was researching S&C and nutrition and everything related to training. And I was like, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Like, not sitting in an office doing architecture. So yeah, haven't looked back.
Oh, that's brilliant. What drew you to the personal training?
I guess, well, I like talking to people for a start. So I'm a people person. I love talking to people. I love working with people. So I love working with people one-to-one. And I've just always loved training. Like, I've been training such a long time now. I've been weight training a really long time, and I'm big into getting women strong and fit and fast and getting women feeling really empowered. So I think that's what drew me to it, really, is just getting women to, well, not just women, but I guess because I'm a woman, like, I'm a little bit more drawn to that, but just getting women to feel good about themselves, because we've been told for so long that we should not feel good about ourselves. So that's my goal, really, is just to get people feeling good and enjoying exercise. That's the other thing, is that exercise, for so many people hate exercise. Like, I can't believe how many people really hate it, and I just want to show people that it doesn't have to be that. Like, it can be fun and it can be enjoyable and it can make you feel good. So yeah, that's what drew me to it, really.
Yeah, how do you find so you talk about, like, as well, women like getting strong and stuff like that. How do you find, like, introducing weight training to women? Did you get a lot of pushback off them?
Yeah, still a little bit, not so much these days, and I think people in their 20s are way more open to it. But I do have quite a few older clients as well, who I think it can feel a little bit intimidating for them. Particularly, like, people of my mum's age always think I'm so extreme. They think I'm rich. They think I'm really extreme, that I've got muscles, which is funny. Like, I'm not even doing anything particularly insane. I'm just lifting some weights. But so I get a little bit of pushback there. I think people still get scared of getting bulky. And I think we've still got a little while to go with trying to combat that. But yeah, I do think people our age are more open to it. Certainly when I was weight training when I was 18, I was the only woman really in the weights area. I just fell into it, really. I'm not sure, I can't recall exactly why I fell into it, but I was certainly the only girl back then in the weights area, and that was quite intimidating. But it is cool to walk into gyms now and see it's a bit more of a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is nice to see.
I remember that as well when I was younger, but I think I was just so like indignant. I was like, haha, I'm going to be the only girl in here.
Yeah, same. I was almost like proud of it. Like it's so silly to think. I was like, yes, look at me go. I'm a girl in the weights area, and it felt like good to be like different. And now I'm like, that's so silly. Like I just want everyone to feel the benefits of it. So I think that's just growing up, though, isn't it? So
Oh yeah, I think so, yeah. I think that's interesting you mentioned about the bulky thing. I don't think you hear that so much really with people our age or in their 20s, like whereas it's more like I actually heard someone said it to me one day a while ago, and I was like, oh, people still think that. They were like, oh, this, I'm not going to get like massive shoulders from this. And I was like, you're lifting 3 kilos for ladder raises, you're not.
it's like, do you know how hard people have to work to put on muscle? Like I always tell people, like it's not going to happen by accident. And if it does happen and you decide one day, you decide like I'm getting a bit too big, I don't really like this look, you can just stop. Like you can stop. So it makes me laugh because we know how hard people work to put on that muscle. Like they're dedicating their lives to put on that muscle, and people really think that like just lifting weights once or twice is really going to make them like turn into the Hulk or something. So
Yeah.
but yeah,
Don't look at them too much. You'll get too big.
yeah, honestly.
Um, so you kind of you work in person. How do you find working in person, like on the gym floor with people?
Yeah, I love working with people. I work with mainly Gen Pop, so general population, which I love. I love working with sort of true beginners, like people that
Yeah.
have never come to gym before, have never lifted weights before. Some of them have barely really moved before. Like even the concept of just exercising it is sort of brand new to them. Um, I find a lot of joy in that. I find a lot of joy in introducing people to that for the first time, particularly with people who traditionally like hated exercise, and just showing them that there is ways to move that aren't horrible. Like I think people think of exercise as going to a gym and leaving feeling just absolutely exhausted and knackered and hating every second. And you can go in and you can have a laugh and you can lift some weights. I think lots of people find lifting weights more enjoyable in general than cardio, whereas lots of people think it's cardio of exercise. So yeah, I can come in, have a bit of a laugh, lift some weights, and just leave feeling better about themselves. So I love working with Gen Pop. I love working with one to one, and I don't know if I'll ever stop doing that really. And yeah, just encouraging. I think when people first come to me, normally the reason people first step into the gym is to lose weight. That is the number one goal that we get coming in through the gym doors is I'm coming in because I want to lose weight. And being able to show people that it's not just about that brings me a lot of joy. So whenever I talk to someone in like an initial consultation, I'll always obviously ask them what their goals are. Normally it's I want to come in and I want to tone up, I want to lose weight, whatever it is, and just asking them to put that on the sidelines for a little bit. So I say that is a really valid goal, that's a totally valid goal, and I'm really here for that, but if you could just agree to put that on the back burner just for a little bit, just for 3 months or for 6 months, and just focus a little bit more on let's get you moving well, let's get you feeling stronger, let's get you feeling fitter, sleeping better, and all those other good things that we know comes with exercise. And then let's see how you feel in 6 months' time. And almost all of them forget about those initial goals, which that brings me a lot of joy that people are finding those benefits that are outside of those initial aesthetics based goals. So yeah.
Do you get much pushback when you say that to them?
Yeah, a little bit. I think within the gym I work in, I'm quite clear with my message. Like that sort of is my message. I really want people to, I'm quite clear that I'm not here to turn them into bodybuilders or to put them on a diet or anything like that. I'm quite clear with that message, and I'm quite clear with that message online as well. So normally when people come to me, they have a little bit of an idea of what I'm about. So I get a little bit of reluctancy, but at least I know then the people that come to me are serious about like wanting to try this new approach. Occasionally you'll get people that are brand new and are a little bit taken aback by me. and you do get a little bit of a pushback. But I always say, like, you're welcome to go and talk to other personal trainers, see what they're about, sort of shop around a little bit, because I want people to work with me because they actually want to work with me, not just because I'm the first person they've seen walking in through the door. So I always ask people to, like, have a look at what I'm about, have a look at my message, have a look at my, if they're unsure, take a look at my Instagram. If you need to, go and talk to other personal trainers, and if you decide that this is for you, then come back, and then I know at that point I've got them on board. So you get a little bit of pushback, but normally people are willing to trust you for like 3 to 6 months, and by that point they're normally hooked. So that's okay.
Yeah, that's good actually. Interesting. So do you even find when they do sign up with you, like once you've had that conversation, they do leave it on the side, or do you get them still kind of commenting on weight loss or wanting it to be quicker or anything like that? Or
Yeah, for sure. Like, I still get clients that are yeah, I mean, yeah, I still get clients that are worried about how they look, or feel self-conscious about their bodies. And I think a couple of things. I think, one, I try really hard to never ever comment on what my clients look like. I make a real point of not doing that, because well, I don't think it's really anyone else's place to do so. So I think when I am with them one-to-one, I'm always talking about their strength or their mobility or their improvements in other areas, which I think is helpful. I think the other thing is that so I train for performance. That is my thing. Like, I really train hard to perform well, and I really try hard not to think about what I look like. But ultimately, we've grown up in a society that is really hyper focused on what we look like. So it's not as easy as just like flicking a switch. And I'm really aware of that. Like, when I chose to train for performance, I have to choose to do that one time, and then I have to keep choosing to do that. So I have to keep choosing to ignore that messaging. And like, that's a battle that I'm still going through after 10 years. Like, I'm still have days where I'm like not feeling that good about myself. And then I have to choose to ignore those feelings. So I don't expect people to just be like, okay, cool, we're training for performance now, and I'm over how I look. Like, it's not going to be that simple. So yeah, I do still get people worried about it. I do try to remind them of all the other good things they've achieved. So like, I'm like, look at where you came from 6 months ago and look at where you're at now. And ultimately, what you look like has nothing to do with how far you've come, and look how good you feel achieving all those things. So yeah, I do think it's hard to be able to you can't just flick that switch. And I do think that is a choice you have to keep making. But the reason I ask people to do that is because, like, I genuinely do believe that brings people more happiness. I think training more for performance is more positive, because it's always about being more. It's about like, can I be stronger? Can I be faster? Can I be fitter? Can I be better? Whereas when people are just coming in and training for fat loss, it's literally about being less. It's literally about being smaller than who you are. And I'm like, let's be bigger. Like, let's be bigger and better and stronger and faster. And that for me is always going to be more positive. And I just want people to be happy. That's like, ultimately, I don't care what people look like. I don't even care if people get stronger. I just want them to feel happy and to feel confident. And so I guess that's why I really push those goals, because I do think it leads to more happiness. I mean, there is going to be caveats there. Like, if you're someone that, I'm going off on a tangent now. If there's someone that, so I always say that performance brings more happiness, but if there's someone that is potentially experiencing discrimination because of the way they look or because of their size, then you could argue that changing the way you look could improve the quality of your life, because you're no longer going to experience that discrimination. So there is going to be caveats to that. But I think for the most part, for most people, choosing to put those aesthetics goals on the sideline will improve their quality of life. So that's sort of my stance.
Yeah, I think you're right though. But a lot of the time as well, if you do focus on a performance, the aesthetic goal will come with it. If but you like, you no longer care because you were interested. Now I can do a pull up, or now.
Yeah. That's what I always say at the beginning. I'm like, we're doing the same thing. So like, we're doing the same. If someone came to me and said like, I want to look this particular way, or whatever, I'm like, we're doing the same things we would be doing if you want to perform, to if you want to look like. I'm doing the same things as my colleagues over there that are more focused on aesthetics. We're still lifting, we're still trying to eat better, we're still trying to sleep better, we're still getting in a little bit of cardio. We're doing the same things, we're just not so focused on it. So those things are still there on the peripherals, but we're just focusing on something else. So you're right, like over time, the way you train is probably going to affect how you look. Yeah, I guess that's why I just ask people to put it on the sidelines.
Do you think as well though, like having something to work towards, like that, like a performance related goal, do you think this is when people actually start enjoying training?
Yeah, 100%. Like the joy of someone getting like their first bodyweight deadlift, or even just like jumping on a box for the first time, like the joy I see in those moments, and how that carries over to the rest of their day, is I think what keeps people coming back. Like I think that's what brings people happiness. Like that's what makes them come back to the gym the next week. Like, could I just lift that tiny bit heavier? Like, could I just deadlift? Can I now deadlift 1.5 body weight? Or can I now run that 5K a little bit faster? Like that's what keeps people coming back, because it's kind of addictive. Like it's always about trying to achieve something, rather than coming into the gym and just leaving wanting to be smaller, essentially.
Yeah.
So I think it's those things that bring people more joy in exercise.
Do you think I suppose the fact that everyone is so focused on, did I say this? I think I might have just said this.
Sorry.
Fat loss is why they all hate the gym, or they hate exercise.
Yeah,
You see it like it's a punishment, like.
I think so. Yeah, I think most people join the gym from like a negative place. And that's like, I'm very aware that the people that I'm working with are probably an already vulnerable group of people, in that they're coming to me because they think they need to be fixed in some way. And I think just reminding people that they don't need to be fixed, like they are who they are, and they are whole as they are now, and they can learn to feel better, and they can improve certain aspects of their life, but they don't need to be fixed. And I think you have to be careful with the words you use, and just how you treat people when they first come in for personal training, because I think they are a vulnerable group of people. So and yeah, normally they are coming from a place of seeing exercise as punishment. So yeah, I guess ultimately that's why people don't like the gym, really.
Yeah, I get that. It's like you're almost dragging yourself in. Like it's why, they start because it's January, it's time to lose weight again. And
yeah, and then they'll do something that's unsustainable, and then they'll I was gonna say they'll fail, but that's not really the right word, but they'll feel like they failed because they've chosen something that is really unsustainable to follow. They've gone in too hard too soon. They've probably dieted too hard too soon. And then after 6 weeks, when they can't keep up with it, they feel like they failed. It's not that they failed, it's that the process they've chosen is failing them. I think that's what you've got to remind people. Like, you didn't fail the diet, like the diet failed you, or like you didn't fail the program, it just wasn't the suitable program. And that leads them into like a bit of a cycle, right? Like I failed my program, I can't do it, so now I hate it because I failed it. Like, if you can just create small incremental changes that make people feel good, that's probably the key to keeping people coming back long term.
Yeah, I find as well, like it's not always that say they failed or whatever, but they'll come back to something, or a diet or a program they've done before, because it worked. And it's like,
it worked.
yeah. But
and
if it
like,
worked, why are you back?
Yeah, it's like, well, it didn't work then, did it? Because
Yeah.
if you're back 6 months later, then it didn't work. Or just because something worked for 4 weeks, it doesn't mean it worked long time. It's it's funny how people are so quick to blame themselves,
Yeah.
rather than the thing they're following.
Yeah, I find as well, like, they do look at it like that, like, because things are sold as like 6-week programs or whatever, people see it as that. But like when it comes to your fitness and your health and stuff like that, like there's no end date on it.
I know. I always remind people that come to see me, if people are talking about, if people say like, oh, I wish I could lift as much, or I wish I could run as fast, whatever it is, I always have to remind people like, I've been doing this for 10 years. And admittedly not very well for many of those years. Like admittedly my training program wasn't very good, but like and yeah, I was sort of just hopping about the place doing whatever I fancied. But ultimately I've been training or exercising 6 times a week ish for 10 years. And like it is the long game. Like if you want to make those big changes, then you have to be in it sort of for the long haul. But also I kind of feel like we should be up for that, in terms of like, I'd like to think I can still be exercising like into my old age, right? Into my 80s, into my 90s, however old we live now. So even though 10 years sounds like a long time to people, I'm like, ultimately, hopefully, we'll all be exercising for the next 50, the next 60. So yeah, I know goals can take a long time to reach, but I find that kind of exciting rather than demoralizing. But I guess
Yeah, I think, yeah, like it's fun to, not fun, but when you've worked on something, I suppose, when you're a beginner, things come up really, really quickly. But like,
yeah,
if you've been training as long as us, like you can be months working at something just to get that tiny increment.
I have to tell my clients, like, sometimes they'll put on like 10 kilo in their lift, in like 10 kilo on their squat in like 2 weeks, and I'm like, I wish I could put 10 kilo on my squat in 2 weeks, but sadly it does slow down. Although I think by the time you've been training as long as we have, like, you're a little bit more hooked and you're a little bit more accepting of that slower progress. But yeah, I wish I could make those newbie gains that that lots
So
of
cool.
us need to make. Yeah,
I feel like I should have utilized it back then. Might be further along now.
I know. Yeah, I wish I knew. Like, I wish I was doing things properly back then, because I'd be so much stronger now. But hey ho.
I was too busy trying not to get bulky.
Yeah, exactly. Too busy not lifting heavy enough, or not eating enough would be the other one. But
Yeah, I find that that's a big one, getting people to eat, or well, more so women, but like getting them to actually eat.
yeah, I do think women are too scared to eat enough. But if you want to perform well, if you want to lift heavy and you want to run fast, then you need to be able to fuel yourself, really. I do kind of hate the saying like food is fuel, because food is so much more than fuel. Like, food is eating out with family, and it's cultural, and it's part of people's identity, but also it does give you energy. And if you want to be able to turn up and lift heavy and run a bit faster, then you need to be eating. I've got so many clients that come to me, and I know it is tough, but they come to me early morning having not eaten anything, and then they get mad that they feel like they've got no energy, and I'm like, you've not given yourself the energy to be able to do it. Although I do know it's hard eating that early in the morning, but I'm like, just get something in, just a banana or something, just so we can actually perform today.
Yeah, I get that actually. I'm one of those ones with bad habit of not eating early in the morning. So even I just have like protein and coffee now, and I'm like, oh God, my training's so much better when I have something in my system.
So sometimes we'll get to, like, because I eat quite late at night just because of my schedule, and because I train other people early in the morning, it sometimes means I forget to eat or don't have the time to eat. And then I'll be like midway through a training session and I'm like, oh, why do I feel so rubbish? And then it's like, oh, because it's 11 a.m. and you still not eating anything. Like, so I mean, we all forget as well. Like, it's not, none of us are perfect, right? But at least I'm a little bit more self-aware these days when something's not going right.
Yeah, I get that as well. Like, at least I suppose, do you ever find that when you're talking with clients as well, like you're talking about like people like being hard on themselves, like they beat themselves up after not being performing or whatever, and you're like, all right, well, how are you? And it's like, oh, I couldn't sleep at all last night.
I know, yeah. But yeah, or like their life is really stressful at the moment, and then they're mad that they didn't up their lift this week, and you have to remind people of a bit of context there. Like, I wish progress was a straight line, but I say to them, like, if I'd have been progressing every single week for 10 years, I would be mad strong. So I was like, trust me, there's ups and downs, and I think you have to learn to enjoy those a little bit. Makes the downs make the ups even better. So
Yeah, also like when people are saying to me, or like, I'm so tired this week and I don't know why, and I was like, that's being human. You're not a robot. Like,
exactly. Yeah, well, yeah, we're not machines, so like, be a little bit kinder to yourself. I think everyone is being a little bit kinder.
When you initially started in the gym, as in like for training, was that kind of the same thing? You kind of went with an aesthetic goal, or did you come because you wanted to just see what it was like, or
Well, when I first started, like,
or was it through sport, or
why did I first get into gym? Probably age 17. Or aged 18-ish. I probably just wanted to lose a bit of weight, like everyone else did. Like, ultimately, I was young. I didn't really know much about the gym. I just wanted to probably tone up and lose a little bit of weight. And then I really got into it when I went to uni, and probably in a not very healthy way. So I probably latched onto this very, well, like a fairly extreme way of exercising and dieting when I went to uni, because everything else felt a little bit out of control. So I was like, at this point, what can I control? And it was like, okay, these are two things, the gym and food are two things that I have 100% control over. So probably when I first started, I was over exercising. So I was probably exercising twice a day, every day. Weight training, I think I just got quite lucky in that I had a boyfriend at the time that introduced me to it. I certainly wasn't, I was exercising way too much, but the fact I even got introduced to it back then is still positive in my eyes, even though I probably turned it a little bit negative. But and yeah, so that's how I first got into it, just by wanting to probably just look a little bit different. And then how did I progress from there? I guess I probably had a fairly turbulent relationship with exercise and dieting for a good few years. And then when I started working full time, exercise for me became a little bit more enjoyable at that point. So I was sitting at my desk all day, 9 to 5, and then I'd go to the gym after, and it was just a chance for me to have a bit of a play. So at that point, probably my relationship with exercise became a little bit better, because it was just more of a stress relief. And I didn't really follow a plan. I just finished at work, headed to the gym, and it was just about having a bit of a play, really. It's not until I became a PT that I started to take my training a little bit more seriously. But yeah, I probably got into it with more of a negative headspace, and I guess I spent quite a few years with that. So I guess when I meet people now, I want them to get to the place I'm in, where I can truly enjoy it and truly train in a way that is both effective and enjoyable, without having to go through all those phases that I went through before. So I definitely went through a lot of periods of like imbalance with my training, and a lot of times it wasn't particularly healthy. And even though that's got me to where I am now, I wish that people could kind of get to this place without having to go through those places, because I don't want people to go on like a 10-year journey of all that turbulence. So yeah, probably came into it from a negative headspace, but yeah, thankfully fell into the right crowds, and now I'm in a much better place, which is good.
Yeah, no, that is good. I get it. I'm the same. Like, I don't think that's how I would have started originally, but it was a lot different when 10 years ago, or maybe 12 years ago for me. But
Yeah.
but I think it's kind of hard when you get, like, say, even new people or people trying to join the gym now who are anywhere, I think maybe from late 20s upwards,
don't have, I think, that kind of experience at the gym at some point, or not even gym, exercise and dieting. Like,
Yeah.
it's just been like drilled into us growing up, like you have to look a certain way, and then it changes every 10 years. So
Well, yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing with aesthetics goals, is that they can be quite fickle, in that like the body shape that we're supposed to aspire to is changes, right? So it's like we have to keep on top of body trends as well as fashion trends. And we've seen that even in the last 20 years, right? Like we've seen it go from like the 90s, really, really skinny. Well, I think 80s was curvy, the 90s was like dead skinny. And
thousands was much the same.
yeah, and then even that, and then strong, not skinny. Even that is probably not that positive. I know we view it as a little bit more positive because it encourages people to eat, but even the whole like more athletic shape and then back to a more curvy shape again, like it's constantly changing. And so if you're constantly training for aesthetics, your goals have to be constantly changing, and that, I think that is problematic. Whereas I always say with performance-based goals, like you're not going to wake up one day and be like, oh, I don't want to run as fast today. Like, I wish I wasn't so fast. Or like, I wish I wasn't as strong. Like, that's so embarrassing that I can lift 100 kilo instead of 50. Like, they don't change in the same way. Like, they're always, goals change, but like in a positive, progressive manner, rather than suddenly being like, oh, I don't want to do that. I feel silly for being that strong. Whereas, yeah, you're right. Aesthetics-based goals go in trends depending on. I was going to say magazines. We don't really read magazines.
Yeah, it's social media now.
Like, exactly. Depending on what social media chooses is the theme of the year.
That's even worse as well, though, with social media now, because it's always in your hand. At least in magazines, you can only see them in the
Yeah,
shop.
true. You just have to yeah, I mean, social media is great. Like, it is really useful for so many things, but if you fall into the wrong part of it, it's pretty toxic. And I think sometimes I can be guilty of forgetting, because if you end up in your own like bubble, then kind of forget. Like, I sometimes think the fitness industry is great. I'm like, it's amazing. Look at all these people like doing amazing things, like promoting really great messaging. And I kind of forget that actually the stuff that I'm seeing is a really small percentage, and the vast majority of it is probably still quite toxic. So although social media is great, it's also not, is it?
Yeah, no, I feel I'm the same in a sense. Like, I follow very few fitness people, and they're ones that, like, in a sense, I was like, I've vetted, and I'm like, right, I like your message. You don't tell people to starve themselves, and
Yeah.
it's all about the boring stuff. They're all the people I follow.
Yeah.
And then, like, every so often, like, oh, that's gone away, and then I'm talking to a client in the gym, and they mention something. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, people still aren't eating carbs. Why?
Yeah, I know. So people still do that. I didn't realize people still did that. But yeah, it is a bit of a black hole. But yeah, man.
Yeah, sometimes you hear about stuff. Do you ever hear about different influencers where they mention these people? I'm like, who the fuck is that?
I know. Or like the different diets they're on or whatever. It's a bit of a nightmare. I don't know. I don't really know the answer to that one. Just encouraging people, I guess, to sort of cleanse their feed a little bit. But the thing is, it can be you can get hooked into it, can't you? Like, even looking at that stuff can be addictive.
Yeah. Do you ever get any weird ad suggestions of stuff because you're in fitness, like those weird like fat loss apps or whatever like that, and you're like,
yeah, you've chosen the wrong person here. Yeah. But yeah, I guess like it's all very well for me to like laugh at an ad, but like actually for some people they're gonna spend their money, which is annoying. But I would say to people, like, if anything, ultimately people are just trying to get your money, aren't they? So you can do health and fitness without all of that. And no matter how convincing their marketing is, like, they're just trying to get their money. They don't really care about you as a person or the results you're getting. So
Oh yeah, like I suppose there's scammers in every industry. You just see the like fitness ones, and like obviously yeah, we can identify that's a scam where some people will be like, oh wow, will that work? And you're like, no.
yeah. And like I don't know what the answer is. Like I feel like everyone needs, part of me is like, oh, everyone needs a personal trainer at some point in their lives. Like I think it'd be really useful, but we know it's expensive,
Mm.
and not everyone can afford that. But also there's a whole bunch of personal trainers out there that I'm like, I'm not sure they're going to help you out here anyway. So I don't know. I guess you just got to keep fighting the good fight and championing other people with good messages, and hope that eventually it gets through. Because I do think it's changing for the better, just maybe more slowly than I'd like it to. But
Yeah, I do feel like there's more people trying to like give the like right messages out, like, you know, don't but like that the reason obviously it's slowly is because it's not exciting and it doesn't tell you how you lose your weight quickly. And
it's not very exciting, no. Although yeah, I guess that's why I'm trying to make performance seem more exciting. That's how I'm trying to hook people in, rather than like me saying, oh, it's going to take you 5 years to lose this much weight. If I can get them hooked on like, I don't know, something in their training that seems exciting. Like, although we know goals can take a really long time, you can also make little micro goals along the way, can't you? Like learning a new little skill or something like that just keep it exciting. So although yeah, it doesn't sound as good initially, I think if you can hook people in on the training itself, then that's the solution.
yeah, no, I agree. I do find performance exciting, so but I'm one of those weird people who really enjoys the gym, so you know.
Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like sometimes like people are like, how do you stay so motivated, or how do you stay so disciplined? But ultimately the people you're asking are people that already love it, and we're probably not the people to ask. Like asking someone who already loves going to the gym how they stay motivated is almost redundant, really. Like you need to ask the people that perhaps came from a place where they didn't, and like how they found some enjoyment in it. Because although we're all doing our best, we're all we all already love it, so we're not really the best example. It's like yeah.
There's one thing I like about where, see, I work in like a semi-private gym, so we do have classes as well. And like that, there's so many people, I'm looking at them now, who like came here maybe 6-8 months ago, a year ago, and they're people who like, you know, so didn't like beginner, didn't train, didn't like what they're doing. They're not only lifting way heavier than they originally started, but they friends, and that's like a motivator to bring them to come. Like
yeah, exactly. I think I do think training as a group or training with a friend is a great way to build some motivation. And like I made a post the other day about sort of discipline versus motivation, because you hear a lot in the industry like you need to stay disciplined, you need to get up on your worst days and still get into the gym, and I don't know, keep going or whatever. And for me, I'm not sure that is really the answer. So my thing was, let's try and build some motivation rather than trying to stay disciplined and make life more miserable than it already is. Let's try and build some motivation, and that can come from training with other people. Like train with as many different people as possible, go to classes, build some competition. Like I think the reason CrossFit is so successful is because it creates like micro competition within classes, which I think people love. Like people love a bit of competition. Maybe learn something new is a nice way to build some motivation. So pick up a new skill, learn a completely new sport. It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to be doing the same program day in, day out for years and years. Like it doesn't have to be boring. I think reminding people that any movement is better than no movement. So just trying to build on that like find something that hooks you in and then really run with it.
Yeah. Unless it's running, because that's horrible.
Well, yeah, I know so many people hate running and so many people want to like running, and I'm like, if you don't like running, then don't run. Like, and they're like, oh yeah. I'm like, why did you not think of that before? Like, you don't have to like running. It's a strange one. I don't know why so many people want to like it, but
It's again, it comes back to, it's like they're like, well, that's how you lose weight. If you
yeah,
run, because cardio is how you lose weight.
true.
Yeah, so they're like, well, like run then. And
They think they have to like it, but there's so many other ways. Like, if you want to do cardio, like cardio is great for so many reasons. Like, it's great for your heart health and it's great for endorphins or whatever, but there's so many different kinds. Like, go and do some boxing or go and do some horse riding or whatever it is. Like, it doesn't have to be straight running.
yeah,
But
that's one thing, like, you know, even you saying that about like just liking running, like that's, so many people are forcing themselves into doing exercise types that they don't like.
I know, which is so strange to me. Like,
Yeah,
I do get that some people aren't aware of all the different things you can do, and definitely people should be trying out different things for sure. Like, I do think there probably is something for everyone, but it's about trial and error, really, isn't it? Like, finding that thing that you like. I mean, I always bang on about concurrent training, which is where I do loads of different things at once. Like, I've not necessarily found one thing that I particularly excel at or particularly love. Like, I like lots of different things. So week to week, I'm doing weightlifting, I'm doing strength training, I'm doing gymnastics training, I'm doing boxing, I'm doing running, I'm doing swimming, I'm doing whatever. And I think people think you have to just choose one thing, but you can do a variety and you can still make progress in a whole variety of different things. So yeah, that's the other thing, is that you don't have to find your thing. You can do lots, and you can accept that progress might be slower in some of those things, but if it's keeping me coming back week in, week out, then yeah, that's the way I like to go with it. Just do a little bit of everything, and that keeps me motivated. So
yeah, like that's true as well. Like switching things up, there's no issue, you know. Something's not working for you, move to something else, see how that goes.
move to something else. Exactly. Again, I think it comes back to that, like, you feel like you failed if you didn't progress in a certain thing, but like, you can just choose something else. That's what, like, you can just do something else. I think people forget that, like, there is literally so many different styles of training. So yeah, finding your thing and then going with it, I think.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. What would you like to see change in the fitness industry?
Ooh.
You can make as long a list as you need to.
Well, yeah, obviously, like, I keep banging on about it, but I'd like people to train more for performance. So that's
Yeah.
one thing I'd like to see. I'd like to probably see personal trainers like not go beyond their scope, which bugs me quite a lot. Like, I see a lot of personal trainers, for example, giving out nutrition plans and maybe going a little bit beyond their scope of practice. Having said that, I think as a personal trainer, you do have to sort of dip your toes into lots of things, because people expect a lot of different things for you. They expect you to be like a physio and a chiro and a nutritionist and a personal trainer and whatever. But and it's fine to dip your toes in here and there. But I think like, knowing what your limits are and being able to refer out when necessary. So I'd like to see sort of the standard of personal training go up a little bit. What else would I like to see change? I'd like to see, let me think, I don't know. There's like there's like so much, but then, like, I can't pinpoint Do you know what I mean? Like, I kind of want to see everything change, but I can't think of like the specific thing I want to see change right now.
I you said about the personal trainers stepping outside their scope of practice. Like, I think part of that problem as well is there's such a low bar to entry, isn't there?
Yeah, and I do get that. I do get that a lot of the learning is done on the job. Like, a lot of my learning has come from, well, A, being on gym floor, so spending time on gym floor, but B, just surrounding myself with people that are more knowledgeable than me. So I understand that you learn as you go, and I think that's the same in any job. So you don't expect people to come out of the industry like ready to go, and I do get that. Maybe a little bit more sort of policing around some of the stuff that's put out online would be good to see, because you do get people fresh out the blocks ready to sell these 6-week programs, and they're making absolute tons of money, which feels like a little bit like it, well, for programs that don't really work or people can't stick to. So that feels a bit like a con. So maybe a little bit more policing around what goes out online. Yeah, I don't know about that low standard to entry, whether it should be harder or whether people should be encouraged to keep learning. But then, to be honest, like, so much of my learning has come through social media.
Yeah.
And that's what I said about, like, it can be a really positive thing. So yeah, that one is tricky, because you want to encourage people into the industry. Like, it can be a really good booming industry, but yeah, it's when people just do those courses and then think they know everything.
Yeah.
A problem. Yeah.
So yeah, like I don't mind people coming into industries and like to keep people out, but I think it is very, very easy to go through a course in 6 months and then start selling.
So yeah, and start selling stuff. Yeah, I think back to what I knew when I first qualified, and it's like, I didn't really know anything.
Yeah.
And yet, yeah, I was free to personal train on gym floor. But although, to be honest, I wish people did spend more time on gym floor. That's what I wish. Like, because everything in practice is very different to everything in theory, right? So I kind of feel like people need to pay their dues a little bit training in person before heading onto the online space.
They like to skip that now, don't they? Like, there's a lot of people who are just like over COVID becoming like online coaches, and they're like, yeah, and you're like, have you ever actually trained a person? I did it in my case study. You're like, no, have you trained someone?
Yeah. Well, yeah, and then I guess cookie cutter programs would be something I'd like to change, because we're all so different. Like, bodies move in so many different ways, and people have so many different goals, and those cookie cutter programs are just not it, really, are they?
No.
Yeah, I think, yeah, people bang on about like learning the basics before you can progress on to other stuff, whereas I kind of disagree with that a little bit. Like,
really?
You need to learn. Well, yes and no. Like, I get that people need to learn, like, obviously when people first come to me, like, learning basic movement patterns is sort of the number one thing we do. But I think sometimes people, for example, like with Olympic lifting, like, you can't Olympic lift until you've got the perfect bodyweight squat. And it's like, you don't need to police it like that. Like, you can start doing those things before, or like at the same time. Like, you can start learning those things, and that is going to improve your squat. Like, learning Olympic weightlifting is going to already improve your squat. So you don't need to have like a prerequisite to get into something else, or like, you don't need to, like, because I quite like to train my clients a little bit more athletically. Like, they don't need to be able to do a perfect balance on one leg, whatever, before I start getting sprinting. Like, those things will come by doing the thing.
Yeah.
Like, you can start loading a squat heavy before you've hit the perfect bodyweight squat. Like, they will improve simultaneously, right? So yeah, you don't, the whole, I do get the whole like get the basics down, but also I think it's just a way of keeping things really boring. Like
Okay.
it just all the program when all the programs are the same, they're all just like hit thrust, RDL, squat, deadlift, whatever. But like there's so many varieties of all those things, and you don't need to necessarily nail it in order to go on. Like I'm still learning, like I've still had to relearn my squat about 6 times over the years, or like relearn how to deadlift again, and I'm progressing with weight at the same time as relearning those movement patterns. Like we don't need to it's not we don't always need to just go back to the basics. That's what I'd say.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, I know what you mean in that sense. Yeah, the way you originally said it, I was like, what? And the way you explain it, yeah, no, that makes sense. It does. So you're doing stuff without perfect form.
Yeah, well, exactly. Like it doesn't. What even is perfect form? That's the other thing. Like, what is perfect form? Everyone's body moves in a different way, and ultimately, as long as you're moving in a safe and controlled manner, then I don't think it really matters how you move. Yeah, like I don't know why people are so obsessed with this perfect form, and I don't know what necessarily that looks like to them. I guess people are trying to avoid injury, but there's no evidence to suggest that one way of moving is going to help you avoid injury any less than another way. So yeah, definitely, I'm definitely not too worried about perfect form, particularly like as soon as someone's near their 1 rep max anyway, like what their form looked like with their 50% compared to what their form looks like with their 1RM is going to look very different. So yeah, I'm not too worried about it. Like as long as I don't feel like someone is in danger, then sort of let people do what they want. Obviously there is more efficient ways to move, I think. There's a caveat there. Like there's more and less efficient ways to move, depending on your goal. So like depending on what you're trying to achieve with it. But is there a perfect way to move or perfect form? I don't really think so.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's funny as well though, if you did put up a video of, you could give like 3 different versions of you doing a squat.
Yeah.
And there would be at least 10 different comments on each one saying which part of it is wrong.
I know. Like I just like, even like when I squat sometimes, like I know things, when particularly when I go heavy, like I know things will happen. Like I know that my heels may come off the floor slightly, or I tip forward a little bit, or my back will round off. But ultimately, like if my coach is all right with that, then I'm okay with it. Like these things are going to happen. That's why TikTok is no good, really, because if you've ever been on TikTok and ended up in the fitness section, like the comments are just unbelievable. Like people just being like, you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't do this, it's dangerous to lift like that, it's dangerous to lift like this. And it's like everyone thinks they know everything, but they don't. But the people commenting are just random people with no experience at all in the fitness world. But
I think TikTok's like that in general, because like I put up stuff explaining things about horse riding sometimes, and the amount of like, no, you're not doing that right, you should do this. Oh yeah, well you can't say that because I've got a spinal injury. I'm like, obviously I'm not talking to someone with a spinal injury.
Yeah, wasn't talking to you specifically.
You just get, they're so quick to tell you you've done something wrong, like, and I'm just like, oh, sorry, I didn't realize you were a Grand Prix rider. I won't say anything again.
Yeah. Well, it's also just like when you look at top athletes. So like when you look at in almost any sport, like any sport ever, when you look at top athletes, they're not normally moving in the way that we consider to be perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, all right, maybe it would be beneficial for me to drive my knees over my toes, whatever. Maybe that would be beneficial, but ultimately, if you look at the best lifters in the world or the best sports people in the world, we see form. I don't really want to use that word, but we see form breakdown all the time there, and they're like the elite. They're the elite of the elite. Even with like running, if you watch like the top runners, like they're not running in the way that we think is the most ideal to do it. So I think people need to be a little bit more just a little bit more slack with things like that. Like, yes, we can make people move better. Depending on their goal, we can make people move better or move more efficiently, but it doesn't have to be perfect.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. I think that's pretty much everything I have to ask you. However, I do have one question that I always ask people at the end of the podcast, and that
Yeah.
is, what is the best advice that you've ever been given? And you can pick more than one if you need to.
Does it have to be like serious?
It could be whatever.
Well, best advice was use wraps for RDLs. That's best advice I've been given. Use wraps for RDLs, because I used to not use wraps for anything. Like, I've got quite strong grip, because I just never really knew how to use them. Not for any real reason. I just never knew how to use them. And I once heard Angus Bradley say, if you're not wrapping your RDLs, you've got weak hamstrings, not strong grip. And I was like, oh, damn, he's probably right. I've just got weak hamstrings. So always wrap your RDLs. That's what I think.
I like that. That's good.
It just made me laugh.
Oh, brilliant. So thanks again for joining me today. Can you tell everyone where they can find you?
Yes, so you can find me on Instagram as Esme Grace. So that is ESME GRRRACE. So Esme Grace. That's probably the main place they can find me. And there's links to my website and stuff from there. So
deadly.
Yeah.
And you can always find me still at Chrissy H Fitness on Instagram, and then for my horse riding training, that's Strong in the Saddle _ on Instagram, Strong Saddle without the underscore on TikTok, and also then my website is chrissyhawkins.com. So yeah, thanks again for joining us again today, Esme.
Thanks for having me.
I really do appreciate everybody who listens to this podcast. So if you please could help me with the algorithm and leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And even, if you want to reach out and suggest topics for me, I'd be delighted to hear from you. Drop me a DM on Instagram or TikTok. And thanks again for listening.